I walked into that pet store to adopt a stray dog and was humiliated in front of everyone. They didn't know I was the granddaughter of the most powerful rancher in the region, but when the story hit the news, the store owner bitterly regretted. It subscribed to the channel now and see how a simple act of kindness turned the tables against those who humiliated me. The sun beat down on the pavement of New York's Upper East Side as Lucy Hartwell hurried along Fifth Avenue. At 24, the granddaughter of powerful Virginia rancher Anthony Hartwell carried in her delicate face the determination inherited from her grandfather, but also a kindness that made her unique. With a degree in veterinary medicine, Lucy had come to New York for a specialization course while volunteering for projects helping abandoned animals. On that muggy February afternoon, something caught Lucy's attention. Amid the gleaming shop windows and well-dressed pedestrians, a dog with matted, dirty fur, visibly malnourished, was trying to enter through the automatic door of Pet Royale, the most luxurious pet store in the city. The newly opened establishment was known for selling only purebred dogs and cats with pedigrees, as well as imported accessories at exorbitant prices. "Hey, buddy," whispered Lucy, approaching the trembling animal cautiously. "You're thirsty, aren't you?" The dog, which seemed to be a mix of several breeds, looked at her with pleading brown eyes. Lucy noticed that despite its deplorable condition, there was an inexplicable sweetness in that gaze. At the store entrance, a security guard in a black suit observed the scene with discomfort. When the dog tried to enter again, he moved to prevent it. "Excuse me," Lucy addressed the man. "This dog is dehydrated and starving. I just want to get some water for him." "I'm sorry, miss, manager's orders. We can't allow stray animals inside." Lucy straightened her posture. The Hartwell blood ran in her veins, and she wasn't easily intimidated. "Then please call the manager." Minutes later, Marcus Bradshaw, a man in an impeccable suit with a bored expression, appeared at the door. Tall and thin, with meticulously combed hair and a watch that cost more than many Americans' annual salary, he didn't even look at the dog before directing his condescending gaze at Lucy. "Can I help you?" he asked with an artificial smile. "Yes. I'd just like some water for this dog." Marcus looked at the animal as if it were a cockroach. "This is a premium pet boutique, miss, not a shelter for mutts. We have customers who pay considerable sums for pedigreed animals. I can't risk contaminating the environment." Lucy felt her face heat up. "I'm just asking for water. It's a living being suffering at your establishment's doorstep. And I suggest you take this problem somewhere else," replied Marcus, emphasizing the word with disgust. "Perhaps some non-profit. We have an image to maintain." Nearby, without Lucy noticing, a young woman with curly hair was discreetly observing the scene. Iris Oliver, a digital influencer with thousands of followers, was recording everything with her phone. "You know what it means to maintain an image?" Lucy retorted, controlling her voice. "It's demonstrating humanity, Mr. Bradshaw. My grandfather always says that a person's character is revealed by how they treat those who can offer them nothing in return." The manager let out a dry laugh. "Rural philosophy doesn't pay my bills, sweetheart. Now, if you'll excuse me." In a quick and surprisingly aggressive gesture, Marcus pushed the dog with his foot, making the animal yelp. Lucy gasped, horrified. How dare you?" she advanced, placing herself between the manager and the dog. "Security!" called Marcus. "Please escort this girl and her mutt away from our sidewalk." The security guard looked uncomfortable, but stepped forward. Lucy, with tears of anger in her eyes, picked up the dog in her arms. "You'll regret this," she said with a calmness that barely disguised her fury. "My name is Lucy Hartwell, and I promise you'll remember it." Marcus rolled his eyes, immune to the threat. "Just another country girl who thinks she can intimidate me. New York is too big for your name to mean anything, miss." Humiliated but not defeated, Lucy walked away with the dog in her arms. Her heart raced, divided between shame and indignation. As she left, she didn't notice that Iris Oliver, now with a determined smile, was finishing her recording and starting to edit the video right there on the sidewalk. "This is going to go viral," Iris murmured to herself as she typed an impactful caption. "Cruelty at luxury store. Manager humiliates young woman and abandoned dog on Fifth Avenue." Lucy walked to a nearby park where she got some water for the dog from a public fountain. Watching the animal drink eagerly, she made a decision. "I'm going to call you Valentine," she said, caressing his dirty ears, "because, despite everything, you have a brave heart." That night in her small rented apartment, Lucy bathed Valentine, who revealed a caramel coat under the dirt. Not knowing that her story was already beginning to circulate on social media, she called her grandfather in Virginia. "Grandpa, something happened today that got me thinking," she began, as Valentine fell asleep in her lap, finally safe. Across town, Charles Montgomery, owner of the Pet Royale chain and one of the most ambitious businessmen in the American pet sector, was absent-mindedly checking his phone when a notification caught his attention. The video of a young woman being humiliated at his most prestigious store had just surpassed 100,000 views in just 2 hours. Iris Oliver's video exploded on social media overnight. By the next morning, Justice for Valentine and Frani Pet Royale cruelty were already trending topics nationwide. Outraged comments flooded the store's pages, and television channels began to report on the case. The recording clearly showed Marcus's arrogance and the shocking moment when he pushed the dog with his foot, followed by Lucy's dignity in defending the animal. In his office on the top floor of a commercial building on the Upper East Side, Charles Montgomery watched the repercussions with a mixture of anger and strategic calculation. At 45, the businessman had built an empire in the luxury pet products and services market, always cultivating an image of exclusivity. With grey hair at his temples and an artificial tan, he was a constant presence in social columns and prided himself on serving New York's elite. "The imbecile Marcus managed to ruin years of brand building in 5 minutes," he growled to his assistant, Vanessa, who remained silent as he continued. "But perhaps we can turn this around." Charles began to pace around the spacious office decorated with photographs of himself alongside celebrities, all with their purebred dogs. "Call the marketing team immediately and find Marcus. I want him here in 30 minutes. In Lucy's apartment, the situation was different. The young woman woke up startled by the insistent ringing of her phone. It was her friend Danielle. "Lucy, you've become a sensation. It's everywhere. That video at Pet Royale." "What video?" asked Lucy, confused, as Valentine stretched beside her on the bed. Danielle quickly explained about the recording that had gone viral. Lucy felt her stomach sink. She had never wanted exposure. She had only wanted to help the dog. "My God," she murmured, opening social media and seeing thousands of notifications and messages of support. "I just wanted to give Valentine some water." The following hours were a whirlwind. Journalists tried to contact her, strangers sent messages, and even her grandfather called, concerned after receiving the video from a friend. "Little granddaughter, I'm proud of you." Anthony Hartwell's voice sounded firm on the other end of the line. "You confronted that fellow like a true Hartwell. I'm arriving in New York tomorrow morning." "Grandpa, you don't need to come because of this." "I'm not coming because of this. I'm coming because of you and that four-legged friend of yours." Meanwhile, at the Pet Royale headquarters, Charles Montgomery was finalizing an emergency meeting with his public relations and marketing team. The strategy was set. At 3 p.m. that same day, Pet Royale published an official statement on all its platforms. Pet Royale vehemently repudiates the behavior exhibited by manager Marcus Bradshaw, who has been immediately dismissed from our company. We believe in love and respect for all animals, regardless of breed or origin. As a gesture of our sincere concern, we would like to meet the young woman and the little dog to offer shelter, veterinary treatment, and, if she wishes, initiate a responsible adoption process. Pet Royale is committed to animal welfare and will use this unfortunate episode as an opportunity to launch an awareness campaign about animal abandonment. The statement was accompanied by a photo of Charles Montgomery with his award-winning golden retriever and the announcement of a substantial donation to a well-known animal protection non-profit in the city. The response was immediate. Many praised the company's attitude, considering it responsible and ethical. The hashtag #TunraPetRoyale Redeemed began to gain traction, especially after influencers discreetly hired by the marketing agency began sharing the statement with positive messages. Lucy observed it all with growing discomfort. Something in that story didn't add up, especially when, in the early evening, she received a call from Charles Montgomery himself. "Miss Hartwell," the calculatedly friendly voice sounded from the other end. "It's an honor to finally speak with you. I would first like to sincerely apologize for what happened at our store." "I appreciate the contact, Mr. Montgomery," replied Lucy, cautiously. "Please call me Charles. I'm calling to invite you to visit our headquarters tomorrow. We would like to personally meet Valentine, correct? And offer all necessary veterinary support. Additionally, we plan to launch a responsible adoption campaign and would love for you to be the face of this initiative." Lucy felt a bitter taste in her mouth. The invitation sounded strange, too calculated. "Mr. Montgomery, I appreciate the invitation, but I need to think about it." Of course, he replied with slight impatience in his voice. "But understand, it's a unique opportunity to transform this unfortunate episode into something positive for everyone. Our marketing team already has concepts ready, and the little dog would be the star of the campaign." That phrase revealed everything. Marketing. Charles wasn't interested in Valentine or the cause of abandoned animals. It was just a strategy to clean up the company's image. "I'll return your call tomorrow," said Lucy, ending the conversation. That night, she couldn't sleep. The next morning, her grandfather, Anthony Hartwell, arrived at her apartment. Tall, with white hair and skin marked by the Virginia sun, the 72-year-old man emanated authority and wisdom. Seeing Valentine, he opened a wide smile. "So this is the brave one who caused all the commotion?" he joked, petting the dog who already looked different after Lucy's care. "Grandpa, I don't know what to do. The owner of Pet Royale called me yesterday, offering a contract to be the poster girl for a supposed adoption campaign." Anthony listened attentively as they had coffee. When Lucy finished, he placed his cup on the table with a decisive movement. "What do you want to do, my child?" "I want to expose the truth. This isn't about marketing or corporate image cleaning. It's about respect for animals and people." Anthony smiled, proud. "Then do that, and know that you have my support for whatever comes after." 2 hours later, Lucy gave an exclusive interview to the most respected variety show on American television. With Valentine by her side and without makeup or elaborate production, she spoke directly to millions of viewers. "What happened to me and Valentine is not an isolated case. It reflects a society that values status and appearance above compassion. Mr. Charles Montgomery offered me money and fame to participate in an advertising campaign, but never mentioned any real intention to help other animals in street situations." And then Lucy revealed the information that would end Pet Royale's redemption attempt for good. 6 months ago, she had tried to propose a partnership between her university free spaying project and the pet store chain. The response email, which she showed in the interview, contained a categorical refusal from Charles Montgomery, stating that initiatives for stray animals do not align with the brand's premium positioning. The entire country watched that revelation, and the internet exploded once again. The hashtag #ChunkPetRoyaleLeah dominated social media within minutes. Lucy's interview aired on a Wednesday night, and by the next morning, the entire country was talking about the case. The contrast between the simple young woman with her rescued dog and the powerful businessman who had tried to manipulate the situation moved the nation. In the following 24 hours, Pet Royale's shares plummeted 17%, and protesters gathered in front of the chain stores in various cities. Lucy's sincere face and Valentine's story touched Americans' hearts in a way that no million-dollar advertising campaign could. In Lucy's apartment, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Tracy, a next-door neighbor who had become a close friend, helped filter the calls and organize messages that were coming through all possible channels. "There's a production company that wants to make a documentary about you and Valentine," Tracy informed, passing a mug of tea to Lucy, who seemed exhausted after a poorly slept night. "And 3 publishers offering contracts for a book." Valentine, oblivious to the sudden fame, rested peacefully on the living room rug, occasionally raising his head when his name was mentioned. "I never imagined this would take such proportions," sighed Lucy. "I just wanted to help this little guy here." The cell phone rang again. It was Ryan Carter, a veterinarian who worked on free spaying projects in underprivileged communities and who had unsuccessfully tried to establish a partnership with Pet Royale in the past. "Lucy, you did what many of us have tried to do for years, expose the hypocrisy of this market that treats animals as luxury merchandise. I need to meet you." Meanwhile, at the Pet Royale headquarters, chaos was setting in. Charles Montgomery called an emergency press conference where he appeared visibly distraught, with deep dark circles and a slightly crooked tie, something unthinkable for a man who had always prided himself on his impeccable appearance. "Pet Royale acknowledges that mistakes were made," he declared, reading a text clearly drafted by his legal team. "We are undergoing a profound reformulation of our values and practices." The words sounded empty. Aggressive. Journalists bombarded him with questions about the email revealed by Lucy, while cameras captured his growing discomfort. When asked if he personally knew manager Marcus Bradshaw before hiring him, Charles hesitated long enough for everyone to perceive the lie in his denial. The following afternoon, a former employee of Pet Royale's marketing department gave an anonymous interview to a major news outlet, revealing that Charles not only knew Marcus since college, but had also personally directed all managers to maintain the exclusivity of the brand by keeping undesirable elements away from the stores, a clear reference to lower-class people and their non-pedigreed animals. The press dug deeper, discovering other cases where Pet Royale had ignored or sabotaged social initiatives related to abandoned animals. A New York City Council member announced that he would request the opening of an investigation into possible tax irregularities in Charles Montgomery's companies. It was against this backdrop that Anthony Hartwell arrived in New York, staying at his granddaughter's apartment. After dinner, sitting on the small balcony with a view of the illuminated city, grandfather and granddaughter talked about the future. "I never told this to anyone, Lucy," said the old man, with tearful eyes fixed on the horizon. "But when I was a boy on the farm, we had a dog named Banner. He wasn't purebred, but he was the most loyal animal I've ever known. One day he disappeared. I searched for weeks until I discovered that the neighboring farmer's son had poisoned him because Banner entered his property." Lucy held her grandfather's wrinkled hand, surprised by that revelation. "The boy's father came to offer me money to buy another dog. As if he could replace a friend," continued Anthony with a choked voice. "That's when I decided that one day I would own my own land, where animals and people would be equally respected." The old rancher discreetly wiped away a tear before continuing. "Lucy, do you remember Spring Valley Farm? Those old barns we don't use anymore. I'm thinking of transforming them into something new." The young woman listened, intrigued, as her grandfather detailed a plan he had been developing since watching her interview. Spring Valley Farm, one of the family properties on the outskirts of New York, had underused structures that could be adapted into a rehabilitation and adoption center for animals. "Grandpa, are you serious?" asked Lucy, with eyes shining with emotion. "I've never been more serious in my entire life, little one," replied Anthony, with that captivating smile that had won businesses and hearts throughout his journey. "I want to invest in your dream, a center that offers free veterinary care for low-income families, spaying programs, education about responsible guardianship, and of course, shelter for abandoned animals. And I want you to run it all." Lucy felt tears in her eyes. Since college, she had dreamed of combining her veterinary training with a social project. And now, unexpectedly, this opportunity was arising. "I've already spoken with some friends," continued Anthony. "Richard from Horizon Construction will help with the renovations, practically for free. Dr. Claudia, that veterinarian who treated Bella back at the farm, agreed to coordinate the medical part, and several ranchers in the region have committed to monthly donations." The next day, Lucy met with Ryan Carter, the veterinarian who had contacted her, and other professionals in the field. Together, they began to design the project that would be named Valentine Institute. During the meeting, Ryan introduced Iris Oliver, the influencer who had recorded the original video. "Without you, none of this would have happened," said Lucy, hugging the young woman. "I just showed the world what you were already doing," replied Iris, "and now I want to help promote the Institute." In less than a week, the team had already created a website and social media profiles for the project. Iris, with her thousands of followers, produced a series of videos showing the situation of abandoned animals in New York and presenting the vision of the Valentine Institute. The response was immediate. Hundreds of people offered themselves as volunteers, donors, and potential adopters. Meanwhile, Pet Royale's situation was rapidly deteriorating. Important suppliers announced the suspension of contracts. Celebrities who had endorsed the brand publicly spoke out against the company, and a national boycott was gaining strength. Desperate, Charles Montgomery tried one last move. He hired one of the most expensive crisis management agencies in the country and announced the launch of a Pet Royale Solidarity product line, with part of the profits going to animal protection non-profits. The strategy was a failure. Nobody believed in the businessman's sudden conversion to the animal cause. On social media, the hashtag #PetRoyaleLeah remained among the most commented. 3 weeks after the scandal, the works at Spring Valley Farm were progressing at full steam. The old storage barns were being transformed into modern and welcoming spaces. Anthony Hartwell personally supervised every detail, ensuring that the facilities met not only the animals' needs but also provided a pleasant environment for visitors and staff. Lucy divided her time between overseeing the project and caring for the first rescued animals, who were temporarily being sheltered in a provisional structure set up on the farm. With the support of Ryan and other volunteer veterinarians, she already coordinated a small but efficient rehabilitation center. It was during this period that an unexpected call came. Charles Montgomery, through his secretary, requested a private meeting with Lucy. After initially hesitating, she decided to accept, more out of curiosity than any other reason. The meeting took place at a discreet cafe in downtown New York. Charles, visibly worn down, seemed to have aged years in just days. The artificial tan had given way to an unhealthy pallor, and his eyes, once arrogant, now avoided direct contact. "Thank you for coming, Miss Hartwell," he began in a low voice. "I know I have no right to ask for your time after everything that happened." Lucy simply nodded, observing with some compassion the defeated man before her. "Pet Royale was my life," continued Charles. "I built that company from scratch, sacrificed relationships, gave up having a family. It's all for that empire." "An empire built on questionable values," replied Lucy, keeping her tone polite but firm. Charles sighed deeply before continuing. "Came to propose a partnership. Pet Royale can be the main sponsor of the Valentine Institute. We are willing to invest $5 million initially and use our network of contacts to expand the project's reach." Lucy raised her eyebrows, surprised by the mentioned amount. "In exchange," Whammer continued, "Charles, we would only like you to make a public statement softening your previous declarations, a gesture of reconciliation that would benefit everyone." The young woman took a sip of her coffee, thoughtful. For a moment, Charles believed she was considering the proposal. $5 million would solve many problems and allow the Institute to serve many more animals. "Mr. Montgomery, I appreciate your offer, but I must decline it," Lucy finally replied, with a serenity that disarmed the businessman. The Valentine Institute wasn't born to be a bargaining chip or marketing tool. It was born from a genuine commitment to animal welfare and ethics. Its fundamental values are incompatible with Pet Royale's history. "You're condemning me to bankruptcy for a mistake that wasn't even mine," exclaimed Charles, momentarily losing his composure. "It was that idiot manager who mistreated the dog." Lucy smiled sadly. "The manager's error was a symptom, Mr. Montgomery, not the cause. Your company's culture, the values you promote, the systematic exclusion of less valuable animals, all of that came from the top. People can forgive mistakes, but they don't forgive falsity." After a heavy silence, Charles asked, almost in a whisper, "What if I donate the money anonymously? No association with Pet Royale, no requests for retraction." Lucy looked into the man's eyes, searching for sincerity. "If you really want to help, start by rethinking your relationship with animals, not as merchandise or status symbols, but as beings that deserve respect and dignity. When you're ready for that, the doors of the Valentine Institute will be open to you as a volunteer." Charles left the cafe defeated, while Lucy remained, reflecting on how a simple act of compassion had triggered so many changes, not just in her life, but in the lives of so many people around her. 2 months passed in a whirlwind of activities. The Valentine Institute took shape and structure, receiving donations from companies, celebrities, and ordinary people touched by the story. Lucy was invited to TV shows and podcasts, always accompanied by Valentine, who had perfectly adapted to the role of mascot. Finally, the big day of the inauguration arrived. The space, once a set of abandoned barns, now housed modern facilities for veterinary treatment, spacious kennels and catteries, areas for animal socialization, and an educational center. The transformation was impressive, as was the line of people interested in visiting the place and possibly adopting the first rescues. The Valentine Institute is born from the belief that every living being deserves respect and dignity, regardless of their origin, breed, or condition. Here, we've built a space where animals find not just shelter, but a new chance, and where people find the opportunity to transform lives through compassion. Among those present, familiar and anonymous faces mingled. Iris Oliver, now a close friend and official ambassador of the Institute, was live-streaming the event to her followers. Ryan Carter, who had accepted the position of veterinary coordinator, smiled proudly alongside his team. Tracy, the neighbor who had supported Lucy during difficult moments, volunteered at the reception desk, greeting guests. But the most special guest, without doubt, was Valentine. The dog, who, months earlier, had been kicked out of a luxury store, was now by Lucy's side at the inaugural ribbon cutting, wearing an elegant blue bandana with the Institute's logo. His serene and confident gaze contrasted with the frightened animal that Lucy had found on that fateful day. The same week as the inauguration, the last Pet Royale store closed its doors. Charles Montgomery, who had lost almost all his wealth and prestige, disappeared from public life. The businessman's fate became the subject of speculation until months later he was seen working as a volunteer at an animal shelter in rural Virginia, far from the spotlight and ostentation that had previously defined his life. The Valentine Institute grew beyond the most optimistic expectations. In its first year, it performed more than 5,000 free veterinary consultations, spayed and neutered 3,000 animals, and found homes for hundreds of dogs and cats. The model inspired similar initiatives in other regions, and Lucy became a national reference in animal protection. Among the Institute's success stories, the most notable was that of Bella, an elderly dog who had been abandoned after 12 years living with the same family, who simply got tired of her. Rescued in precarious conditions, the little dog won the heart of Mrs. June, a 78-year-old lady who had come to the Institute looking for just a little animal for company. The meeting between the two transformed into such a moving story that it became the subject of a documentary produced by film students. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, during an adoption event at the Institute, Lucy observed with emotion families meeting potential new members. Valentine, always by her side, seemed equally satisfied with the outcome of his unlikely journey. "You know, Valentine," she whispered, caressing the dog's ears, "sometimes you need to face the storm to see the rainbow born." In the improvised stands for the event, Anthony Hartwell proudly watched his granddaughter, who had transformed a moment of humiliation into a movement of love and resistance. The old rancher had learned from Lucy that true legacy wasn't measured in acres or heads of cattle, but in the ability to use resources and influence to build a better world. By his side, Ryan Carter observed Lucy with admiration that went beyond the professional. In the last few months working together daily, a special feeling had grown between them, something they both still explored with the caution of those who know that some precious things need time to fully bloom. At that very moment, a girl, of approximately 10 years, approached Lucy timidly, accompanied by her mother. "Mom, is it true that all this started because of this little dog?" she asked, looking admiringly at Valentine. "Yes," smiled Lucy. "All this began because I decided to listen to my heart when everyone told me to follow the rules. I want to be just like you when I grow up," declared the girl, adjusting her glasses on her freckled face. "No, little one," replied Lucy, bending down to be at the child's height. "Be better than me. Continue what we started here. Because each act of kindness, no matter how small it seems, has the power to transform the world." As the girl walked away, Lucy looked around at the space that had once been just a distant dream. The Valentine Institute wasn't just an adoption center. It was a symbol of how compassion and courage can triumph over indifference and cruelty. And it all began with a simple request for water for a thirsty dog. Dear listeners, we hope that Lucy and Valentine's story has touched your hearts and inspired a new perspective on the power of small actions. To continue this journey of emotions and reflections, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories about ordinary people who transformed the world around them. Find it here by clicking to your left. If you were moved by this inspiring transformation, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like on this video. Every day we bring unique narratives that explore the complexity of life and the power of small actions. And you, have you ever had a moment when a seemingly simple gesture completely changed your path? Have you witnessed or been the protagonist of an act of compassion that generated a positive chain reaction? Share with us in the comments. Your story could be the next to inspire thousands of people and, who knows, transform more lives.